My name's Diandre Fuentes, and I am a footwear designer at Vans and just all-around maker. That didn't feel right.
No, I love it.
No, I don't know. I'm not really an all-around maker. Oh, mom and I knit.
We are putting that in.
Yeah, I'm a knitting mom. Just kidding. My name's Diandre Fuentes, and I am an artist and footwear designer at Vans.
Perfect.
A little cleaner. I'm Filipino. My parents were born in the Philippines. They moved together. I think their first house together was in Long Beach, and I was born at Long Beach Memorial.
Okay.
So after moving around a bit, I went to college in Rhode Island. And then after college, I got an internship at Vans, which brought me back to Long Beach, where it all began. So when I was in Rhode Island, I studied textile design. I loved it. We were in wooden looms, kind of like strapped in, just going like line by line weaving. And I think I fell in love with two kinds of artistic expression. One is like the craft. Textiles kind of straddles these two worlds of like this very tender, personal, domestic, you think about like mothers knitting sweaters for their children, or like baskets being woven as tools, like very humble, but very gorgeous objects being crafted. And then this other side of textiles being used in like fashion spaces, where it's like very trend driven, very fast. So I guess my first hallway is transitioning my work into a professional fashion space. And I think it was really a crash course when I got my internship at Vans, from this very like insular, kind of like Hogwarts art kind of experience into like, okay, this is the real world. These are the people that you're gonna have to be interacting with, and these are the people that you're gonna have to prove yourself against. The specific kind of business I work in is very male dominated, very white male dominated. Even in the streetwear scene, it's very male dominated. So coming from a space that's very female dominated, when you think of textiles, it's very domestic, a lot of under-celebrated women's craftspeople, and like using kind of the confidence and identity that I found in that space to try to craft confidence and identity in a corporate space, but being very intentional about showing up authentically with what I have to offer that I see as like a massive white space, no pun intended, in that corporate space. So like, these are the perspectives, like whether it's a female perspective, a woman of color perspective, craft perspective, being very confident in that this is what needs to be represented, and I'm representing it by bringing really good work. That's, I think, a hallway that I had to navigate, was how do I bring my most authentic self and try to represent or be a conduit of these underrepresented, in corporate world you say consumers, but just like people that I feel like could add layers of richness to this story of California, the story of skating, the story of streetwear. There was a lot of uncertainty of like, maybe they don't want to hear my perspective. Maybe I'm just being a squeaky wheel. But I think after 11 years, it took a long time, but it's like, doing the quality work and showing up, giving 100% every time. I think the action sports lifestyle space is a lot stronger because of people working in that way, of like being unrelenting in translating their self-expression and their personal story into these spaces, where I really had to use my creativity to balance that dichotomy is in how I treat people, especially in professional spaces that can be very cutthroat or very masculine. It's like, how do I create spaces of softness? How do I create spaces of curiosity? How do I create spaces that invite others in that may be on the periphery, that may be shy or don't have the practice or haven't been given the tools or the opportunity to contribute to the conversation. And I think that's maybe a more abstract way that creativity comes into everyday life. That's where I'm honestly the most proud of, is in my career being able to create more non-binary, flexible, soft, liminal spaces where people can really explore and express themselves and not be afraid to make mistakes or say, be fully themselves. I think I can shift to my personal artistic practice now. I feel like all of the madness that the world throws at me, whether it's like my toddler having a tantrum, the US is bombing a country, this, that, and the third, I can return to my art and my personal art, which is kind of returning back to craft, knitting, weaving, as a moment of grounding and as a moment of really continuing to exercise my creative muscles or my maker muscles, even though I don't know what the outcome is of this thing I'm knitting or what's going to happen tomorrow. But I just feel the solace in exercising the muscles. I think for me is more of a meditative space. It's a way that I quiet my mind. When I pick up yarn or I pick up, the fibers that I'm weaving, and I sit and I just kind of zone out, and I can see this length of fiber growing in front of me. Regardless of what this is going to become, at least I made progress somehow. That's very grounding. And it sounds so rudimentary, almost like, how does she not know what she's making? How does she not know what this is going to become? It's like, sometimes I don't need to know all the answers. All I know is that I'm doing something every day that is building up to something that maybe is like, more in a beautiful realm of unexpectedness that, I don't want to call the shots too early. Who knows? I mean, maybe it goes back to, it's like, I don't have the answers and I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I think I grew up like, no one really knows what they're doing. But at least we can exercise the muscles of doing. I think that's where, kind of in relation to my family. I mean, I say the word discipline, but I'm really not the most disciplined person. And I use the creative practice to remind myself to be disciplined. I keep my projects on my nightstand because it really is like, the work I do in my professional life is very lofty and it's very conceptual. It's very like, and there's so many cooks in the kitchen and I'm just one author of this thing. That meditative practice is as simple as like having a project on my bedside and I look at it and I say, instead of doom scrolling for 30 minutes, I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to quiet my mind. I'm going to get a meditative state, and that will make me better for my son. That'll make me better for my husband. It'll bring me back into my body so that I can show up as strong as I can in real world situations.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially as I've gotten older, like I didn't grow up like in the phone era, like in the internet hit. How old were we when the internet hit? Like 7? I feel like I don't know how my son's brain is wired or like the Gen Alpha, Gen Z, how their brains are wired, but I have a very slow brain. And I feel like it's all of the overstimulation, whether it's like apps, work, Outlook, Instagram, TikTok, Al Jazeera, Washington Post, like everything, plus my personal to-do list, it just piles in my head. It feels like I have 60 tabs open in my head all the time. So I use my creative practice to help return to my body. Just being rooted in a very physical thing, just a singular physical thing, just helps reset so that I can, come back online, get to work on the things that matter. Yeah. Yeah. You really learn by doing, and you learn with your whole body. And I grew up, like I was a typical artsy kid. Like I had asthma, I had eczema, I was allergic to everything. So I was just in the corner coloring my Snow White coloring books. I'm seeing it now with my son, like he's learning with his body through sports. but I really learned through using my hands to like build, you know, whether it was crocheting or like painting, like using my entire body to like create an image on a surface. And the physicality of things, that trial and error and that physicality is linked to developing new neural pathways and just coming across unexpected spaces. And I think down the road, you know, I think there's this like corporate swing, and I feel like we're all kind of resisting it. Like we don't want this reality. And I think, I don't know what it's gonna look like. I think there's gonna be a reckoning, but I think staying agile through physical work, whether it's painting, big scale, jogging, running, like just finding your own way of being in your body and expressing through your body, that's huge. And also, it'll serve us in ways that I don't think we really understand yet. Yeah. I don't know if this is a dark answer, but I don't think I realized how susceptible I am to like internal chaos, I think, and how important it is to stay grounded with a physical practice. I think when I was at the beginning of the hallway, I was like, I got this. I got anything that life could throw at me. Like maybe I was overconfident, like motherhood, it's gonna be okay. Being a partner, it's gonna be like roses all day. Being in a professional setting and like fighting those battles, you know, you get tired after a while. And I think I underestimated how much world events and being inundated with information would affect my personal well-being. I thought that my mental health was like impenetrable because of my family and how honest we are about mental health. I think we're really good about being supportive with each other. I think being like rooted in spirituality made me think I could do it. But I think being in the hallway was like, I need to ground myself in meditative practice, in physical, creative practice in order to keep the noise out and return to my principles, return to my moral compass, and return to how I want to show up in the world. Because there's a lot of distractions and there's a lot of stimulation, and a lot of it is like not going to serve your path. So I think maybe that was the hallway, you know, realizing that I'm not impenetrable and I got a lot going on up here. How important a creative practice is to get through that. Yeah, I can talk about, I guess, a project that I'm proud of, and it's in my professional life. It's tied very closely to my personal practice, which is craft. Vans used to have this program where anyone could come in with their textiles and get custom shoes made. And a lot of those people were housewives that were needle pointing. The archive of like USA made shoes of like women that were like, I like needle pointed this like ladybug and I want to get shoes made. Like it's so earnest. But I think that is like really beautiful. That's like this overlap of like the domestic and feminine space with this like manufacturing, you know, masculine brand space. And it created a visual language for Vans that we tap back into and try to get inspiration from all the time. So kind of like in the footsteps of those women, there's like a very like needlework, crochet heavy like pair that I worked on that I was like, I think aesthetically it merges like my professional life and my personal life in a really interesting way. And then in terms of what's next, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself in like monetizing things because then it takes away the meditative quality. But I'm really trying to create more pieces for friends. I think that's it, especially with textile work. Like one of my professors in school was like, you cannot make a conceptual baby blanket. And I was like, you are so wrong. You can definitely make a conceptual baby blanket because I feel it's like your hands are making something that is like derived from like plants and animals. And then it's like made for another person's body. Like that's kind of like magical to me. And like fibers have memory. So I think that's my next step, is like conceptualizing that in a new way, where it's a little bit less of like the insular and like creating tokens for other people. Yeah. That's my next step. Not for money, maybe. Just for, it's like, I made you a talisman out of animals and plants with my hands. And you're like, this is just a sweater. And I was like, no. It's made from animals and plants. It's like woven magic, I promise.
You said fiber has memory.
Fiber has memory. So like I learned this in school, like it has memory, I think maybe more in like a scientific way, as in like when you knit something or weave something and like the ins and outs it has, distortion that's made through that structure, once you unravel it, it'll always keep that structure. And those structures are like made of like earthen materials, like animal fiber, plant fiber. So I think I'm infusing a lot of like metaphor into that. Fibers are like one of the most intimate pieces of objects that you have. Like your shirt is literally touching your skin, absorbing your sweat, absorbing your cortisol levels. Like you could like relate it in so many ways, but I think there's a lot of beauty to this object that has like first contact with your body. And it is kind of like a duality with like my professional work, because it's like large volume, lots of SKUs. But what's the reverse of that is like this really intimate object that carries a lot of, that witnesses so much and carries a lot of your, your sweat, your emotions. You imbue emotion into that object too. So I find a lot of beauty. That's why I love fibers so much, I think. Yeah. I think my advice for someone who's stuck, and this comes from a place of like being stuck myself, is just picking something up and doing something even though you don't know where it's gonna lead. Whether it's like picking up your needles and your yarn, picking up clay and just like noodling around, or just like whatever that medium is or whatever that expression is, it's like working out. It's like I'm like doing these reps. You're staying strong even though you don't know what the end goal should be. And that's okay. It'll like show itself, I think. I think that's like where my favorite things appear, is like I was working on something with no intention of what it was gonna become. And then you see a pattern evolve. And like, oh, that's what the spirit or the universe or my subconscious is trying to tell me it was supposed to be all along. It's just like, your brain subconsciously working through your hands to communicate something to you. So I think that's my advice. Just keep going.